Ready to go whenever you want.
Great.
Alright. Well, welcome to the Glen Week endorsement interview. This is for your new bond measure. We're going to introduce ourselves. This will be, how long are we thinking this is about to take?
Half an hour, probably.
About half an hour. Yeah, do you guys want to just start it out and tell us about the measure?
Maybe introduce
Yeah,
yourselves
sure.
and give the measure number just so our massive watching audience will know it.
Yeah.
224.
26. You got it?
No.
You've got it though, not
Yeah, measure 26224. If you just briefly tell us who you are, who both of you are, and tell us a little bit about the measure, that would be great.
Hi, so my name is Tiffany Penson and I am the board director Zone 2, so that's Cascade area. I'm also the chair of the board this year, and I'm here to really talk about Portland Community College, as it's one of the largest educational institutions, and we serve about 50,000 students per year, and a lot of our students, more than half, so more than 50% of our students, they face food and housing insecurities, they have experienced homelessness, so there's been challenges. So what is really important is being able to provide them access to education, training, and opportunities to be able to contribute to the communities, their families, the workforce, and all of those things that we need to make a city keep growing and viable. Our goal is to educate a skilled workforce, prepare students to successfully transfer to four-year schools if they choose, enrich the community through lifelong learning, and build a greener workforce and shrink our carbon footprint, and be a sound financial steward of public dollars. When we think about how we grow communities, part of growing communities is investing in them. And part of growing communities is providing education and a place where people can see themselves thriving in, can also take away, have some takeaways of skills, because not everybody, I always say, not everybody is interested in just four-year institutions. They're also interested in gaining skills. And so what does that look like to have the skills to be able to have a wage-paying job and support your families? Over the years, we've been very grateful to the taxpayers in our district. They have invested in the future of the community, and they've also always supported Portland Community College, and for that, we're grateful for that. PCC's bond program ensures that college can continue to provide high-quality education for our students and get skills and job trainings they need to be successful in careers for today. The 2017 PCC bond, that was a focus on taking care of the college assets, addressing safety and security, and updating technology. This bond also funded the renovation of PCC Sylvania Campus Health Technology Building and the Portland Metropolitan Workforce Training Center and the Cascade Campus Public Safety Building. Bond costs estimated to maintain fiscal year 2022 rate of 38 cents per 1,000 of assessed value, because outstanding debt is scheduled to decline.
So this, just to be clear, this is a replacement bond. You're replacing existing debt with this bond, right?
Yes.
So it's maintaining the 38 cents,
Right.
that property
Right,
tax
right.
rate.
But the actual principal amount here is $450 million.
Mm-hmm.
So could you be a little more specific about what you're actually going to do with this money?
So would you like to talk about some of our projects?
So, we intentionally aligned this bond with the many new planning initiatives that the college has. So we have a new updated strategic plan, we have a new comprehensive facilities plan, we have our new equity goals, and we have our college budget planning. So in looking at all of that, we developed these major projects. So at Rock Creek in Washington County, we'll replace Building 2. It's 180,000 square feet. It's built in 1976, I believe. And it was, the design theme was a shopping mall when it was built. So there's a lot of circulation and it's pretty inefficient space that we can't reconfigure in a way that will work for today's
So you're
learning.
going to take it down?
The plan is to take it down.
Okay.
There are 2 CTE programs, Building Construction Technology and Auto Repair and Collision Services, along with Diesel Services. We'd like to separate those from the building. There's fumes, there's noise, it doesn't work well in the center of campus. We'll build customized buildings for those CTE programs. Then we'll replace Building 2 with a smaller footprint, something around 70 to 80,000 square feet that fits better in the center of campus. So that's out at Rock Creek. At Sylvania, we would like to renovate the CT building, our communications technology building. This was built in 1972. It's about 80,000 square feet. I understand that the seismic upgrades and the concrete work is of excellence, so we don't need to replace it. We can renovate this building and make it much more modern and up to date to suit students' current learning needs. We have renovated, or will complete renovation of HT Health Technologies East. This is a 200,000 square foot building. In the 2022 bond, we'll renovate HT West, so we'll complete that building altogether. And in Washington County, we'd like to expand our career technologies offerings. We currently lease space in Hillsborough, and we'd like to own it so we can alleviate some of the pressures off our operations budget. And then each building is always more efficient, more sustainable. That too can help our operations. In every bond, I go on. In every bond, we have deferred maintenance. We have IT upgrades, accessibility upgrades, safety and security upgrades. A good chunk of money is actually allocated to these.
So typically bond money is capital money. We
Yeah.
think of that as bricks and mortar and not as maintenance. So how are you able to do maintenance?
These are major repairs, so they're boilers. There's roofs that are 18 million to replace.
So they're really replacing smaller capital assets.
Yes.
It's not really maintenance. It's maintenance.
It's not
We think of
painting or
maintenance as
carpet.
mowing the grass.
No.
This is okay.
This is significant stuff that we're looking at.
What about safety and security? What are you
Safety and
talking about?
security, we look at cameras, mass notification, and access controls.
So those are really capital items as
Those
well.
2. Accessibility, especially at Sylvania, it's built on a hill. We need to make what we have there much more accessible.
Right. So that's construction to make
It
it
is.
accessible.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Okay. Please go ahead.
We do have planning, and planning is an allowed expense in a capital fund. So because it's leaning or guiding us toward capital expenditures, we'll look to the Cascade campus to see how we can improve the facilities to meet the programming, the shifts in programming. And at Southeast, we have Mount Tabor Hall. This is a large building, 2 big block stores that we actually combined into one single-story building. We'd like to take it down and build up. This building houses all college or campus infrastructure, so it's got the main MDF, it's got the generator, it's got our electrical units, so it's going to take some logistical planning to make this work.
So sorry, you previously spent money to put them together and now you're taking them down?
Well, these are CMU
I don't know. what that
these
means.
are concrete block buildings. They're like a Home Depot.
Okay.
They're not at all efficient. So it was, I don't know the year, in the 2000 bond, I believe. We tried to join these buildings together. It wasn't a lot of money that we put into it. And Cascade's one of the smallest campuses we have at 18 acres total. And we need to use our space more efficiently. It's also growing. So this is why we actually need to start building vertically at Southeast.
Okay.
That's about it.
One of the questions that I think the opposition to this measure has raised, which I'm sure you have an answer for, is that the last time that college went out for a bond, you had, I think, 78,000 students. Now you have 50,000. So this is a lot of money, $450 million. And of course, I know enrollment is somewhat cyclical with an upward slope, but that's a major enrollment drop. So how do you explain that?
So what you tend to see is when the economy is good, then enrollment declines. And so during the recessions, enrollment was up to the upwards of, I think there was almost 90,000 students, and that it was based on, because when things are not well economically, then people are going back and they're like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to reinvent myself? What am I interested in? And they invest in themselves during that time. So you'll always see that as it relates to education. Economy good, enrollment declines. Economy struggling, then enrollment increases.
Right. So, and I think the tenure of this bond is 16 years. So you would probably say that we'll see enrollment increases.
Yep.
We hit an inevitable recession at some point.
Yep, it's all secular. I think we'll see it again. It'll increase. Then when things get good again, people decrease. And that's why one thing I really like about PCC personally is that how it offers training programs. So things that you can do in a short amount of time that can change the economic landscape of your family, of your communities.
One of the things that's changed with the past couple of years is the number of students who were forced initially to take classes remotely, but there are a lot of people who think that's going to continue, that even after the pandemic, if it ever ends, that many students will not return to classroom, especially if a lot of your students are working students. So what has the board must have discussed that issue.
So let me just speak from me.
Okay.
I think it's important to have in-person learning, a combination of in-person learning and remote learning. I am looking forward to students having those in-person options. I think there's definitely a need for hybrid. But I think one of the things that is really great about our institution and who we serve is that they have access to in-person learning. I think that is one of the advantages. That is my opinion, and I am confident in sharing my thoughts and opinions around it because I truly believe it. I believe that in-person access is vitally important in combination with remote learning. But I would like our college to be more in-person than remote.
Is there money allocated in this bond for, I take your point, I think we'd all like to see as much in-person learning as possible. I'm curious though as to whether you're spending in this bond on infrastructure that would allow for continuing or expanding some offerings that are remote.
Yes, we are.
Talk
So
about that.
we're talking about staff, faculty, and students. We found there are efficiencies. So we're implementing Zoom rooms for meetings as well as student use. We're looking into ways that we can offer classes asynchronously as well as with some symmetry. That takes a lot of technical power to make that happen. So those are the technical infrastructure upgrades that we're looking at. You know, how can we do these things in a multimodal fashion? And we don't currently have the capacity to do it in a reliable way. And that's something we learned over COVID and we want to improve upon in this bond.
So I think you've a couple of times touched on an issue that a lot of people may not be aware of if they haven't taken classes at PCC, but I think the Rock Creek campus was, what was it before it was PCC? It was something else, right?
I think it was a field. I mean, people were a little...
Did PCC build it?
Yeah.
Because it's got a lot of, as you said, it's got some suboptimal spaces. The space out on 82nd Avenue was big boxes. I forget what Sylvania was, but...
Sylvania was a field too, I believe.
Okay.
Which was how we're a community college. We don't have a lot of money to
Right, but I mean, part of the thing is that you have a lot of spaces. It's not like U of O and OSU, where they want a new building, they find a benefactor, they build a new building, or they were purpose-built for the college in the first place. A lot of your space was not built for you.
Right. I mean, take the Swan Island Center that was the state motor pool site, and we converted the car wash into actual learning space.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's what we have to do to make it work.
Yeah. Tiffany, when the board considered asking voters for this bond, was that a unanimous vote?
Yes.
Was it a contentious discussion, difficult?
Nope.
Did you consider, so I know this is, we see this a lot in public finance, that this maintains the current tax rate, the current millage rate. Did you consider asking for more? Increasing the rate?
Can I answer?
Yeah, you can answer.
We have $1 billion need that we've identified. So it took a lot of effort for us to get it to 450 million and prioritize these essential projects, especially based on the construction volatility that we're currently facing.
What are you not doing that you wish you could have done?
Well, there are a few other, I mean, we would love to move Mount Tabor Hall up, and we realized that we don't have sufficient information to make it work,
What do you mean move it up to it soon?
to a funded project instead of putting it off to a future bond.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said you were going to do that.
We're just doing a planning study.
Okay.
We would love to actually construct a new
Okay.
building out there.
Okay, so you'll continue to use that until you have money?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, what else are you not doing?
PSEB, which is the Public Services Building at Cascade, that too could use at least a renovation, if not a new building, to better suit the EMT and fire services that we have there. We have a number of other buildings, Building 3 at Rock Creek, that could also use renovation, if not a replacement. Our facilities are aging. The AM building at Sylvania, we would love to renovate. And if possible, if we can move faster, we might be able to move a project into a funded category, but we really have to see what happens with construction costs.
So I'm wondering if you have benchmarked PCC against community colleges in Washington or California, or if you have any sense of how we compare in terms, because I know on an operating basis in the legislature, the community colleges are always the stepchild, so to speak. I'm just curious whether how Oregon's approach to capital funding for community colleges compares to comparable institutions, or do we not know that?
It's always bond funded here.
Yeah, it's bond funded here. That's all I know. I'm not for sure that we've compared it to other.
So you guys haven't gone up to Seattle or down to the Bay Area or Los Angeles and said they've got amazing facilities and we don't, or we've got amazing facilities and they don't?
I think it's mutual. I mean, we've got some amazing facilities and we're doing great work, but I think PCC is also a pretty scrappy organization and we make the best of what we have and do what we can with what we have. So the bond is the only way that we can fund our capital costs.
Right.
Otherwise, we move to general fund.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm just trying to get a sense of whether you feel like your capital stock is equivalent to other comparable cities or not. Really don't know.
We haven't studied that, but that's a good question.
What about, so, you know, I've been to, I think I haven't been to the Swan Island facility. I've been to a lot of the PCC facilities. I've been to Clackamas Community College and Schmedeca and Lane. And how do you coordinate this, for instance? So Clackamas, you know, the Clackamas line and the PCC line your boundaries are close. So how do you make sure that you're not asking for money when Clackamas is, you're not building something Clackamas already has, or you're not building something another community college already has, or do you communicate with them? Or
To be honest, I am not for sure if we communicate with them about that. So it doesn't appear like we're asking for the same things in close proximity. So I am not for sure about that, but that is a good question that I think we should get an answer for.
And I guess the other question I have is you talked about all the things because I asked you that you're not doing. How long was your process in terms of developing the list of things that's in that handout?
It started with the facilities plan. So we started facilities plan about 2015, which helped inform the 2017 bond. And then we continued that effort through this year. So it was through 4 years of planning.
And who gets, so you have 20 things on a list, but you can only fund 10. Who makes the cut? Who decides?
Well, ultimately, the cabinet and the board made that decision.
With what input? Do you get student input, faculty input, community input, all of that?
All of it. We
Yes.
had intense input. It was primarily remote because of the COVID conditions. But we had focus groups, we had major campus workshops. We went to a number of resource centers and asked students in particular what they needed and wanted, what was important to them, what they liked and disliked. All of this is available in
Staff.
facilities planning. Yeah.
And so do you think there's anything on the list of things that you're planning to do that you would have said in 2015? I'd be surprised if we got to 2022 and that was on the list. And what changed or what is counterintuitive here that either you didn't expect or the public might not expect?
I would say it was pretty expected because
Right.
the facilities we're looking at are some of the oldest within the district.
What about when what students at PCC want changes? They all of a sudden they want a skill that they did, that the school didn't offer, or you say, gee, we've got all this space allocated to healthcare or welding, but what people really want is carpentry and construction management. I mean, you say you're scrappy. How flexible is the plan?
We're as flexible as we can possibly be. I mean, given that we're looking at mobile welding units, we look to grants to see what we can do. We're looking at a grant to install an AI lab at Willow Creek. So
And partnerships with other businesses, because that's important too. When you think about community, you have to build solid partnerships with other businesses because they will often be happy to help fund things that they are interested in or things that are in relation to what they do. Especially when you think about, the one that comes to mind all the time is like just construction and the trades and how everybody is like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? The trade industry is just falling by the wayside, so what are we gonna do? So when you have some common themes, you'd be amazed at how people come together. I think there's always a potential for PCC to build out their partnerships and be very intentional. I think that is an ongoing thing that we should always be focused on, because they will help make things happen. Things that can't necessarily happen under the bond or shouldn't be under the bond, but they need to happen for the community and education purposes.
Have you polled this measure?
Have we what?
Have you done polling on the measure?
Yeah.
Earlier this year we
Yeah.
did.
You want,
You're probably not allowed to talk about the polling.
I am not.
And I don't know what I can
tell
say.
you we did polling.
Okay.
And there is a graph here
Okay, great.
that you can speak to.
okay. So we did do some polling, and so 58% support,
Yeah.
35% are opposed, and 7% are undecided.
All right. What are you going to do if it fails?
Well, you know what? It's not going to fail.
So, well, given that it usually doesn't, but
Yeah, it's not going to
you got
fail.
to have a contingency plan.
No, we're going to speak it into existence. It's not going to fail.
Okay. All right.
Because what I do believe, I believe in the people.
Yeah.
And I believe that people value education and opportunities and being able to provide people with access to them. I firmly believe that. So it's not going to fail.
Okay. What haven't we asked you that we should have asked you?
I can't think of anything.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think we're done. Thank you both very much for coming in. That was very informative. Can you leave that with us? Is that
Can
super
I have
secret
it?
confidential information?
I don't think so. I mean, we've been presenting it elsewhere.
Yeah.
You want my time?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Well, then I could give.
take-
I'm sure you can
Can I give you
have
that?
whatever you.
I don't know if I can give you that. It's all in there.
It's very
Okay.
nerve-wracking to speak in film. It's